Hello, my name is Jonathan Dupuy, and welcome to the overview of Chapter 4, The Story's Unity. So firstly, I will discuss what to avoid when creating an exposition, how to make a good exposition, and we'll also discuss the same things for the problem of your presentation, which is often folded with the exposition. Then I will discuss what to avoid when crafting a solution in your presentation, and what to do for your solution. And then I will do the same for the conclusion of your presentation, which will tell you what to avoid and how to build a good. And finally, I will present to you how all of these tie together, how your audience is supposed to feel throughout, and how they relate to each other. So, one of the biggest issues that expositions often run into is that they are too long. This happens because they require minimal emotional effort, because sometimes people are lazy. And when this happens, it makes your presentation lose focus, and it makes it very boring. It also makes audiences ask, what is your point? It's not good to have that. Now, a much rarer problem is having too little exposition. This usually occurs because your presenter is either short on time or they don't care about what's happening. So how do we avoid this? Well, to build a good exposition, you want to establish ground rules for your presentation. You're going to establish about how long your presentation will take. You're also going to establish how audiences should ask questions. Should they wait until the end to ask your question? Or can they interrupt you during the presentation? And if they can interrupt you, should they raise their hand first? You're also going to introduce your hero. Your hero is the story itself. You may also introduce yourself using your relevant qualifications. Do not provide every qualification that you have. Audiences are annoyed by that, and it also distracts from the focus. Next, you will provide context for your presentation. You're going to tell the audience what the situation is so that they can appreciate it. And if there is still any ambiguity about what the story actually is, you need to remove it at this point. So, for the problem that is folded with the exposition, you need to, often what will happen is presenters will use scare tactics to get a reaction out of the audience. They want to throw the problem in their face. That is effective, but don't overdo that, because complex problems oftentimes do not have simple solutions, and just throwing it in their face is kind of a simple solution. The problem will also provide a logical explanation for the rest of your PowerPoint, or presentation rather, and it also serves as an emotional hook for your audience. It will upset the emotional balance that they have and to keep them engaged throughout your presentation. Now, solutions are often used as an over-exposition, and what I mean by that is that presenters will often provide a list of data that is unnecessary, or they will give you an endless list of points that you really don't need there. And this usually happens because presenters are worried if they just give you the solution, if that solution fails, then that is worse than having no solution whatsoever, which is true. But if you have no risk, there is no reward. So if you have too little solution, you don't have a presentation. You're just wasting people's times by doing that. So to build an effective solution, you need to make sure to manage your timing. After about 10 minutes, audience engagement drops off drastically. To combat that, we're going to use unifying metaphors. Unifying metaphors are just a rather simple, and effective way of presenting your information to keep your audience engaged. And for this, we have an acronym, LATCH. LATCH stands for location, alphabet, time, category, and hierarchy. So, location metaphors are metaphors that organize your information spatially, and they're usually good for lists of 5 or more items. That right there is an example of a location metaphor. It's only 3 items, but it still works. Now, there are also alphabetical metaphors. Now, alphabetical metaphors are not necessarily, it's not necessarily literal. It doesn't have to be in alphabetical order necessarily. An alphabetical metaphor can also be an acronym, like LATCH. Then you have time metaphors, and now time metaphors can be, they're very important for storytelling, and time can be cyclical, which is great for like life cycles, or it can be moving back and forth, like having a normal timeline, or you have flashbacks, things like that. Now, for category metaphors, they work best for very short lists, and they are the easiest way to organize your information, but they're not always the best way to do that. And then finally, we have hierarchy metaphors. Now, a pyramid is a great example of hierarchy metaphors. They're a very natural way to present information, and there's also a handy acronym to remind you how to build a good pyramid metaphor. It is KISS. Keep it simple, stupid. I'm not calling you stupid, that's just the metaphor. Now, for conclusions, long conclusions are often a sign of unsupported and abstract moralizing, which audiences despise. They do not like that at all. But if you leave no conclusion, or very little, audiences will be wondering what to do next. Now what? This can easily kill a great presentation. So getting the ending right is very important. So how do we get this ending right? Well, good conclusions will wrap up your story, and they will also repeat the most important points of your presentation. They will condense them and repeat them. But do not end there. As if you end here, that is a very weak presentation. Strong endings require a call for action. Call for action is the most important part of your presentation. So when you're giving this, you need to be concrete. You need to tell the audience what they should do and by when. Simply thanking the audience, or ending it here and thanking the audience, is a very weak ending. So if you've constructed your story well enough, you will give yourself time to provide a moral to the audience. This is usually 1 or 2 sentences, and there's no real way to actually measure the impact of the moral statement, because people are often motivated by what they believe in or do not believe in, and it's difficult for you as a presenter to change that. So while you're presenting, your audience is supposed to go through a series of changes in their emotions. So, going back to the 4 parts of the presentation, you're going to have your conclusion, or excuse me, not your conclusion, your exposition here. And then you're going to, on this downward slope, you're going to have your problem. And then as you come up, that's your solution. And at the end here is your conclusion. If you have successfully built an emotional rapport with your audience throughout the presentation, their emotions should go through this S-curve. Your audience will start within their comfort zone, and when you present your problem to them, you're going to want to take them out of their comfort zone. That's down here, so that they understand the importance of your presentation and they remain engaged throughout it. And your solution is going to bring them back to their comfort zone, but it's important for their conclusion to make sure their relative emotionality, this, uplifts them. So you want your end to be higher than your beginning. So to conclude all of this, your exposition, you need to establish ground rules, establish your hero, situation, and remove ambiguity from the story, as well as introduce the problem to your audience. And then you need to solve your problem effectively. To make an effective solution, you need to make sure to manage your timing, provide unifying metaphors. Remember, latch, location, alphabetical, time, category, hierarchy. And then for your conclusion, you want to make sure to wrap up your story, recap your main points, do not end there, provide a call for action, make a moral statement, and make a moral statement. And finally, to ensure that you have an effective story, you make sure that your audience goes through the emotional arc, the emotional S-curve. You're starting comfortable with your conclusion, make your audience somewhat uncomfortable with the problem, restore them to their comfort zone with your solution, and uplift their spirits with the conclusion. That concludes my presentation. Thank you so much for watching.